Vibe coding, what is it? What does it look like? And are we all cooked? I'm Tommy Hoyt. I'm one of Pitt State's digital dealers of black magic. We have several, but I'm the one that typically deals with UI business. Today, I wanted to talk to you about vibe coding. We'll go over some tips and tricks to get the AI to do what you want it to. Prompt engineering. We'll cover the difference between vibe coding and agentic coding. But one of the things that I really wanted to cover today as well is the dangers that we face in this industry, that we're going to be facing in this industry. And we'll see some case studies about what that looks like, because there's a lot more problems that we're going to be facing than just bad code. We'll also go over some ways to maybe mitigate those things. Now, as I've learned in my many years of arguing with people, online and offline, it's always best to define our terms first and then go from there. So, how is vibe coding defined? Perhaps the individual credited with coining the term could help us out. Andrej Karpathy says, "There's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists." Maybe not very helpful. That doesn't really explain anything at all. So I asked Microsoft's Copilot to maybe help out a little. He said this: vibe coding is writing code based on intuition and flow instead of strict planning, quickly experimenting and building ideas as you go. It's fast and creative, but often leads to messy code that needs cleanup later. Also not really, I think, what we're looking for. Now, there are a lot of different AIs out there. I use the Brave browser for my internet searching, and they have their own. They call Leo. His main goal is really to just only be a search engine AI. He's not probably going to give you very good code or anything, but he's going to try to get you the exact information that he's looking for. And so I went ahead and asked him. And he said this: vibe coding is an AI-assisted software development practice where developers describe project goals in natural language and rely on large language models to automatically generate, refine, and debug the source code. That's a bit more clear, I think. We're using AI, it's actually coding for us, we're speaking in English or a natural language, and it just works. It works for us. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably already done some of this already, using ChatGPT or even Copilot's chat to generate a chunk of code, which you then copy and paste into your IDE, and then hit the run button. Well, one of the things that you maybe noticed is these chat interfaces, they like to talk a lot. When I asked Copilot to define vibe coding for me, he didn't actually originally give me that little snippet. He gave me this. And he kept going. He gave me several more bullet points, comparing and contrasting and so on, and really not making much more sense than what that does. Now, this can become rather annoying, especially when he starts putting comments into the code that he generates for you. A lot of comments. I don't have it currently, but once I had him generate me a bunch of code, and he put into the comments all of the things that I told him that I didn't want. So, for instance, I said, I want this in C#, not JavaScript, and he wrote a bunch of comments saying how this is in C# and not JavaScript, and we don't use JavaScript, and all these different reasons of JavaScript is bad. And I was like, no, okay, it's not what I'm looking for, just get rid of the comment. But knowing Copilot, he'd probably be like, yep, get rid of the comment. We don't comment around here. He would just leave more comments explaining that. I'm just like, at a certain point, I'm just like, just don't write anything. You know what? Don't write anything at all, dude. Now, I am the kind of guy who doesn't like a lot of text. I think it's too easy when dealing with these AI we end up writing big paragraphs that we then send over to him to decipher, when in reality, we could have just said it a lot more simply and gotten our result faster. Whether it's comments in the code or the prompts that I write, I always try to remember what a wise man once said. Why waste time, say lot word, when few word do trick? And I think that this is really important to keep in mind. Prompt engineering is still very much a thing, and if you haven't looked into prompt engineering yet, I would just say get familiar with the idea that how you write a prompt has a big effect on what the AI sends back to you. Additionally, I would just say as a side note, if you haven't gone into your chat settings on any of these AI and gone into the custom instructions and get some sort of pre-prompting settings that you can set up, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend going in there and customizing everything to what specifically you want him to say. Now, but that's not foolproof, I will say. It definitely gets you closer, editing and getting your settings set right. But there are more ways, there are several different ways of getting the AI to send back what you want. I'm certainly no expert in prompt engineering, but one of the techniques that I've found very useful is this sort of sandwich technique. It's rather simple. I've used it several times quite successfully to get an AI to convert or expand something that I was working on. It's really just telling him in a general sense what we have, what we're trying to do, then give him data. So this would maybe be some code that you've already written, or if you're allowed to, maybe put in a CSV or whatever. And then finally finish off with a really simple question of, or a command even, of, I want you to do this. And I've had it happen, I've had it one-shot a lot of things, and it was just perfect. I copy-pasted, it worked first time. Now this is pretty good. We're having the AI write stuff for us. He's doing pretty good, maybe writing a bit too many comments, but this is something that we can work with, right? This could save us a bit of time. It stops us from having to spend hours rewriting something in a different language or framework. So that's good. And this is vibe coding, right? We're using the AI to write and maybe even debug some of our code. But this is not really what people are talking about. When people say that AI is coming for our jobs, they're not talking about ChatGPT writing a Hello World program for us. They're talking about this. This is modern-day vibe coding, or more accurately, agentic coding. Now, what is agentic coding? Well, it's just this. Running multiple agents in parallel. He's got like 6 there, while you dance around and wait for one of them to finish. Now, of course, you don't have to dance. It doesn't actually make the agents go faster. But if you've tried to code like this already, you will notice that you start having a really hard time not picking up your phone and just scrolling on Instagram or something. This is really boring. It's really boring as the programmer. I personally didn't realize just how much I truly enjoy writing code and programming until I started having to wait for an agent to just hurry up and get his work done. And he does work surprisingly fast, but that's also kind of the problem. It's so fast that none of us really follow along as he's working. And that's a little scary. It almost makes it a sort of gray box where you could look at the code if you wanted to, but there's also so much of it. And it kind of starts to make you wonder or think, do I really have time to look into all this code or even the patience? Now, of course, the correct answer is yes. you need to be aware of the kind of code that you're putting into production. But there are ways of making this whole process a lot easier. Skills are maybe something that you've heard of. These are little custom commands that you can call when working with an agent, something like commit or start new project. They're shortcuts to have the agent do something that you had it do before or that you're probably going to have it do in the future. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Skills are just prompts. That's all they really are. It's a way of calling a pre-built prompt so that you don't have to keep typing in the same thing every time you want to do a common action. You can also have the agent write skills himself. I found some success with this. I mean, a skill is really just a text file, and we know how good these guys are at generating text. But I will say, just like prompt engineering itself, there's a sort of art or science to writing a good skill. So if you're interested in stealing somebody else's homework, there's a really fantastic GitHub repo out there by a man named Matt Pocock. You can scan that QR code. That'll send you right to the page. Or if you want to check him out later, just Google Matt Pocock skills. He'll come right up. And now the skills that he has in this repo, there are a few that I just wanted to mention to give you an idea of how these things can make your adventures with agentic coding a bit more bearable. One of them is called Grill Me. This is kind of the main one that he loves promoting. And this skill really tackles one of the biggest issues that we run into with agents. That issue being they don't actually know what we want. You can sit there and say, I want to create a degree audit product, and the AI will go off and he'll make this plan. A lot of the AIs nowadays make plans before they do anything. Can't say that about every programmer I know, but he'll do that, and then he'll ask for permission, and then he'll go off and he'll go make this thing. He'll go follow the plan and then produce something for you. And more often than not, it's not really what you wanted. It's not what you were envisioning at all. Now, this isn't the agent's problem, necessarily. It's not a problem with the agent. The problem is that he can't read your mind. He doesn't know what you're thinking. And so Grill Me is, or even there's one called Grill with Docs, that basically turns him into an interviewer who then proceeds to question you. And he questions you again and again and again. And I think when Matt Pocock was talking about this skill, he said that sometimes it's 40 questions, sometimes it's 100 questions. And it just really depends on if he needs more information from you. Once he's satisfied, then he'll create documents and really have a better picture of not just what you're looking for, but also the language that you use. This is another big aspect. When I say degree audit, Pittsburgh State thinks one thing, Emporia probably thinks something a little differently. Caveman is another great skill. Really, he probably should have called it Kevin Malone. But in any case, this effectively makes the AI talk like a caveman. Very few words, but still keeping technical accuracy. The documentation on this one does say that it cuts down the token usage by about 75%, which is really nice because recently there have been a few services that have actually switched over to a pay-for-what-you-use model. So that would actually probably save you some money there. Now, we've covered some vibe coding. We've covered some agentic coding. But I want to step back here and ask a more broad question. What does this all mean? Is this really the future of the industry? Are these agents going to take our jobs? I've heard some people say that it won't be an AI that takes our jobs. It'll be somebody who uses AI that will take our jobs. But I think that there's a fundamental oversight with this kind of thinking. And that is that programmers are not code generators. We're not text generators. There's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that comes with being in the industry for as long as a lot of us have been. And what we're seeing right now is not actually AIs replacing us, but really the consequences of thinking that they can. Now, I'm going to give it to you straight. You can't trust agents. You can't trust AI, and you can't trust vibes. This, however, is not because LLMs are malicious, and it's not because they're evil. It's because they're stupid. They're very stupid. But just like with a loaded gun, it's not the intelligence of the tool that we need to be concerned with, it's the intelligence of the user. Or to be more precise, the user's understanding of what the tool is and what the tool isn't. This is Jer Crane's. This is Jer Crane, the founder of Pocket OS, and he made this tweet, this article, really, the other day. He is the guy who was running Cursor's agent on a routine task, he says, when it ran into a credential mismatch and decided on its own that the best way to fix this bug was to scour the codebase, find an API key, and use that key to nuke the production database. Now, I don't know about you, but I will have to admit that solution has crossed my mind sometimes too. And it would solve the problem. It really would. But that is also what the kids are calling nowadays an intrusive thought. And we're not really supposed to listen to those. One thing that I thought was very interesting about Jer Crane's response to this whole situation was that in his rather long tweet, it's a pretty long article there, he was insistent that they told the AI not to do such a thing. They gave it explicit instructions on what it is allowed to do, and it violated those. It violated every single instruction that they gave it, and then nuked prod. This is one of the most important things that I think we as professionals need to understand about the coming age of AI. Letting AI agents run wild with the only limiter being instructions that say, don't do that, is about as safe as giving a monkey an AK-47. Tim Curry, a YouTuber and programmer who has more credentials than I care to list out, released a video yesterday, actually, titled AI Hurts Software. In this hour-long video, he covers a lot of problems that we're facing as an industry, not least of which is the amount of downtime that GitHub is apparently trying to make stylish lately. But in his video, he covers a different incident, not Pocket OS, where an AI agent thought it would be a good idea to delete prod. Intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts. In talking about agents deleting production, Tim said something that I thought was rather noteworthy for us to keep in mind when we're thinking about agents. He says, we try to treat AI as a person and a machine. We treat it like a person in that we expect it to think and reason its way through to conclusions. But we also treat it like a machine in that we expect it to do the same thing the same way every time, not reason or change its mind or fail to do the right thing. And this is problematic because neither of those are a good analogy of what AI is. And it's true. What we're dealing with is not human, and it's not even what we typically think of as a machine. If you know anything about LLMs, and how their backend works, you would know that at its core, an LLM is really just a guessing machine that's guessing the next word or guessing the next token. But it is really good at it. It's really, really good at guessing the next token. But it's not perfect. And that's the question that we face. Are we willing to let an imperfect guessing machine run wild through our systems? Probably not. Tim Curry continues talking about this particular case and how the company also gave their agent explicit instructions that it then disobeyed. And he said something else for us to keep in mind. What you should realize here is that anytime you give an AI instructions, those are all suggestions. Instructions in no way stop an AI from doing what it sets its mind on. So how do we avoid this? Well, really, we simply use the tools that we already have. Limit account access, only allow an agent to run in a sandbox or virtual machine. Unfortunately, I don't have time today to get into exactly how to do all of that, but I'm sure plenty of us know a digital security expert who would be overjoyed if you asked them about how to stop an AI agent from doing what it's not supposed to do. Now, I wanted to talk to you about vibe coding today, and I think we've covered that. We maybe even got off onto some tangents, but I do believe that all of this information is important for us to keep in mind, whether a programmer or not. Agents are here. AI is here. It's maybe not exactly what the movies told us it would be. It's maybe not as magical, but I don't think it's going to stop. I don't think the development of these new tools in any way is finished. And as such, the best move that any of us can do right now is to continue learning about these tools, what they can do, what they can't do, and hopefully one day we can teach them to stop trying to delete prod. Thank you. Questions?
So I keep seeing all, the guys in the AI guys in the paper saying, hey, we're just going to get rid of every programmer in the next 18 months or whatever. So 18 months later, we're all still working, thankfully. But what I'm not seeing is production of software projects finishing faster and on time. We all know, at least we at the state know, a couple of big projects that they're in process, dates keep getting pushed back. These are some big AI companies, and we're not seeing results faster. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. The bigger a project gets, the harder it is for an AI to really work with it. One of the things I didn't cover was that we can't really just tell AI to go and make this huge thing. And in a lot of ways, we can't even give it a huge thing and say, hey, add a feature here. Because it just really is not able to grasp the entire project like we can. That being said, those are large projects. There's actually a lot of small projects that are getting created every single day. Google actually just, they were bragging about, I think, their latest operating system on the phone. And they were saying how they're going to start making widgets that'll be on your phone that you can just tell your phone what you want it to have, and the phone will literally just make the widget for you. And so that's a tiny little thing that an AI could knock out in probably 10 seconds. And so I don't know. We're going to have to work on the bigger projects, certainly, maybe kind of breaking them up. And we certainly can. But I would say that really the huge breakthroughs are in those smaller projects.
I've read some of the stuff in relation to that. Basically, they're finding now that even though the AI is generating a lot of code, they don't have the governance structure in place to move at that speed to actually get that across the finish line to production. And they can't have AI solve that because the AI is making the mistakes already. They need somebody to double check that work and make sure it works. So you got QA and testers, all that stuff. Well, they don't have AI agents for that. And one would question, do you really want to give, the keys to the kingdom to something like that? So that's one of the reasons I've heard they're not, they're spending a lot of money on it, but they're not getting any more product out the door than they were before.
Yeah, and AI can be really expensive. It's great and fancy and fast, but if you don't have the budget for it, you might as well just hire a programmer. Any more questions? Yeah?
So are
Currently, at Pitt State, we use Microsoft's Copilot. Now, when I say that, I'm specifically talking about the chat client. Microsoft had the brilliant idea of naming about 11 different products Copilot. So I can't just say Microsoft's Copilot because it could mean anything. Terms, we need to define terms. But, so yeah, exactly. So the GitHub Copilot, we don't use that. We still kind of use kind of the free version. But even then,
Some of us have the paid now,
okay.
and it is helpful for some things. It doesn't really improve the coding piece of things.
Yeah.
It really curates information, but there's a downside to it too, is because it'll go back to meeting notes when you're asking it about something. Well, in this meeting, it was decided it was this. It's like, no, we were discussing it that meeting. We didn't have
Yeah.
a conclusion. And it's trying to present that like it's a fact, but, I mean, that stuff's easy to tell because I was there.
Right. Now, in my personal experience, I have used things like Grok Build. That's Elon's latest toy that came out, or even Cursor, which is really fancy. I think that once I used Grok Build, I started to realize just how powerful a CLI is, rather than having an AI in your IDE, your code base. If you just have a chat and he just manages everything, it's a very different experience. So yeah, I mean, those are pretty powerful. And I would even say that Microsoft's Copilot, at least in my experience, tends to be not as good as the other competitors.
The reason we use it though is because we have license for it in our tenant.
Right.
It keeps our data in our tenant, same as SharePoint Exchange. So we do more with it than we can with any external tools that we, if we want to pay the extra dollars, and at some point it might be worth it, but right now it's just, we'll use the tools we have available to keep our data within our tenant.
Yeah, but I would say that using like prompt engineering and stuff has definitely made little small things that, oh, I need this to be in it. Like, so I mentioned different languages, but like what I did once was I designed a web page, and then the user wanted this to also be turned into a PDF. And so I took that web page's code, I gave it to Copilot, I did that sandwich technique, and I just said, I need in C# a PDF generator that is going to make a PDF that looks just like this page. And he took that and he did all of this fancy stuff with a PDF generator, and yeah, he almost got it perfect. I'm a little pedantic myself with some of the margins, so I was like, okay, it's a passing grade. But no, that saved me a few hours, certainly.
I used it to put up all the specs for a project, and it created all my SQL code that I told it to do this table and this table and do this project, and it created all to generate all the databases on the back end. I'm still testing it out to see how it's going to work, but it did figure out it's trying to create.
Yeah, I found a lot of advantage with the SQL stuff. I'm not an expert in SQL, but I did at one point need a bunch of data injected into a database, and I just gave it to Copilot and said, hey, can you write me SQL that'll just put all of this into a database? And it said, yeah, sure, and just gave me a big script, ran it, nailed it, first try. Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm curious, you brought up this skill that was grill me, right? And I was thinking, I don't know if this would work or not, but you know, you said it would ask you a whole bunch of questions to try and figure out exactly what you want. I'm almost wondering, would it be useful, like if you actually gave that to an end user, for example, they're like, hey, I want you to build this thing for me. Go here, tell it what you want. It asks the 120 questions and then delivers you like the specs, you know, the requirements.
Yeah.
Here's what we need.
Uh,
Would it be helpful at all?
I think it would, but I would with a caveat of AIs like to ramble and get off topic a lot. I've used that grill me skill, and at one point we just ended up developing the product right there. And I was like, wait, weren't we supposed to like go through an interview process? And he says, oh yeah, we can get back to the interview, sure. And I'm like, no. You were supposed to keep me in the interview. So, yes, I do think that it would be really nice to have that sort of grill me kind of thing for a client. But I would say that I would want to test that AI and make sure that he is consistently stopping when he needs to stop and not going anywhere that he shouldn't.
You might be able to use it to say, my client wants this, what questions should I be asking my client?
Sure. Yeah. And another thing is that a lot of times we have users that we kind of have institutional knowledge on. Oh, when this person says it's not working, I know exactly what the problem is. The AI maybe won't know that. And if they do know that, it's probably because they have a profile on it. And then you start getting into questions of, okay, we're keeping profiles on people, maybe a little weird.
I was just gonna ask, like, the level of questioning, was it something where, like, sometimes it would get a little bit annoying? I feel like I've already answered this question, or is it just as good as if, you and I were asking the person?
In my experience with it, now I will say Matt Pocock uses Claude. That's what he wrote those for. I converted them into Grok, so there might be a little difference there. I don't think so. But the biggest annoyance I found was that he came back with a lot. He was it was almost like he was using the chat as his scratch board and questioning, which it would have been nice if he would just ask me the question and then ask me a different question. It was just this massive wall of text and a little bitty question at the bottom. So that was the biggest annoyance for me, yeah.
Have you ever looked into or utilized GitHub released an AI-specific spec-driven development workflow called GitHub Spec Kit that kind of helps you, does that question-answer phase, and then also write out full specifications for every feature that you might be looking at? That's kind of your starting point.
I am not familiar with that at all, but it does sound like the grill me and very helpful, I will say, yeah. Anything else? Well, thank you guys.